This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
Yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.
It's time for Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic, Jonny Athletic. And he's on with Dan Barreiro right now.
Did you ever cover a game, more likely football than baseball, but I guess it could be either, at the Stick, at the gone but not forgotten Candlestick Park?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not, Dan. I know that you have a rich history at that ballpark, but that was after my time, and you know, I still do most of my traveling on the basketball side of things. So until they play an outdoor game, unless they play an outdoor game there, I don't know that I'll be able to see one. It's gone. It's too bad.
Yeah,
so I've heard just nothing but legendary tales about that place.
Well, it's interesting because I don't think I ever covered a baseball game there. I covered a lot of baseball games at Chavez Ravine in L.A., but I don't think I did, for whatever reason. A lot of football. But people say, was it that Mark Twain line, the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. And Dan Gladden used to tell the stories of playing in the outfield, you know, late night ball game in Candlestick Park, baseball game. Basically, it felt like you were in the middle of winter in San Francisco, California, that was unbelievable. The winds could pick up not far from the airport there as well. That it didn't, you know, we think of baseball, what do we think? We think pastoral thoughts, and we think balminess, right? We think shirt sleeve weather. We think, and apparently there were some nights, some night games at San Francisco where if you weren't at least wearing a medium-sized jacket, you were going to freeze your butt off.
Well, I have a bit of a running joke here with the excellent PR staff of the Warriors. And, you know, they come to Minnesota in the wintertime with the Warriors, and they complain about how cold it is. And I said, you know, it is not any warmer where you're from. When we're here right now, it's 55 degrees. It's very sunny here, very nice that way. But the wind whips. I'm down on the wharf, staying here this week, and the wind whips around, and it gets chilly, man.
Yes, it does.
You know, it's not a balmy place to live. So, you know, these guys acting like, you know, it's ridiculous. I mean, it gets cold, but it ain't warm here.
Well, you know what it is? I tell you, I think what it is a little bit of, you think of, it's California. I should not freeze anywhere in California, even if it's Northern California. And you come to find out that, you know, there are a lot of different climates just within that state, relatively speaking. I actually wouldn't mind, as a guy who actually enjoys a nice, 58 degree, 60 degree day, I think I might not mind that so much. But I think it's the California thing. Well, it's California. They got palm trees there, and it still feels kind of chilly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I made a mistake the first time I came through here years ago. I think it was a spring trip out here, and I was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to get out of the colder Minnesota, kind of spring stuff, and this is going to be awesome. And so I packed short sleeves and shorts and everything like that, and I had to buy a touristy hoodie from somewhere because it's cold. Like it's cold at night. It's been nice to walk around here. It's been very comfortable, but it is, if you're looking for getting a good sweat up, this is not the place.
The salad days, salad newspaper days, a world quite foreign to what most newspaper people have to mess with today. So this would be the mid to late 80s when I was a young pup reporter for the Dallas Morning News with a literally unlimited budget. I spent 17 consecutive days in San Francisco covering the NFL playoffs, 49ers. That was when Bill Walsh teams were just emerging. And
yeah,
it was like you said. There were a couple of I covered at least 2 games during that period where the monsoons were taking place. You're at the stick, dodging what feels like sleet. It's a driving rainstorm as you're leaving the locker rooms to go back up to the rickety old, cold, no heat Candlestick Park press box, and ended up, I think, with close to pneumonia a couple times during the 17-day stretch. But when you're a kid, you don't care. You're thinking, 17 days on the road? They're paying for this?
Absolutely.
It's a pretty good gig if you can get it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've always said, like, I was born too late because I've heard all of your stories and Royce and all of the other guys, being out on the road, unlimited budget, maybe having a couple of pops in the press box after the game. And that is my style. Like, that's exactly what
it is. Actually,
I have a great life. Right. Things are great here, but like I missed the window there for sure.
Yeah, you've carved out a pretty good niche, though, I think, and that part of it is good as well. And I want to get to some of the stuff that you wrote about in the Julius Randle piece. But let me ask you a more general question, because there's 2 ways to look at how the Warriors may have come out of Game 3. One way is they shot their best shot there. They get 30 points from a very unlikely source, a player who's been basically buried on the team. They get over 30 from Butler, and they might realistically not feel they can muster up another opportunity like that. The other way is they were encouraged enough that they were in good position, and they know that if they go down 3-1, then the thing really is over. That it's not until tonight that we might see the Warriors' best punch. What does your gut tell you about which way that might go tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to split it a little bit here because I do believe that was Jimmy Butler's best punch. 43 minutes, ultra aggressive offensively, making shots, going at it. I think he can still play great tonight, but the thing that is apparent is that they just cannot score enough to win if the Wolves are even moderately decent offensively. And so I think it is going to be a key first quarter for the Wolves tonight because if they can get on top of them and make some shots and get a little cushion early, then I think you're going to see Warrior heads start to hang a little bit, some deflation. But I expect Draymond and Jimmy to come out firing and give everything they have early. And if that's not enough, then I think the Wolves can really jump in front. But there's no question that their defense, the Warriors' defense, has made it difficult on the Wolves for a lot of this series. And so their only hope right now is that they keep flying around, they keep confusing and speeding up the Wolves' offense, and then they hang in another rock fight. But the Wolves, I'm telling you, Dan, man, if they can just make shots consistently, I just don't see an antidote for the Warriors.
No, especially if you're right, if they hit a greater percentage, that's for sure. I think part of the debate, inner debate among Wolves fans, even reasonable ones right now, is on the one hand, I think they're saying, look, part of why the Wolves offense occasionally looks disjointed is what you mentioned, is that this is a good defense. This is a legit, even without Steph, and obviously Steph's not a great defensive player anyway, this is a well-integrated, well-coordinated, well-planned out defense that is miles better than whatever the Lakers were trying to put together. And that's what tends to happen, is other offenses look a little disjointed, including the Wolves. On the other hand, I think reasonable Wolves fans are saying, yeah, but with Steph out, if this is the best we're going to play, is that a sign of trouble in terms of what I really want, which is I want us to go further. I want us to get not only to the conference finals, but even to the NBA finals. Where are you on that whole issue of how this last victory should be processed by Wolves fans?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that right now the Wolves are not playing anywhere close to their best. And so that's kind of good news, right? Because they're finding ways to grind out these wins with B minus games. I thought that maybe game 3 was a B minus for the most part. They played really well in the fourth, and that's about it. So I I am looking at it as this. One is I do give the Warriors a lot of credit. I think their defense is absolutely legit. I think that they are playing as hard as humanly possible, even though they are severely shorthanded and much less talented than the Wolves. So I'm very impressed with just how well coached, how organized, and how tenacious they have been. But I also know that I know the Wolves have another gear here, whether it comes in this series or whether it can come in the Western Conference Finals or whatever. They can play much better. Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, even Ant can be more efficient and score at the rim. Like there are so many things that are available to them that I have seen them do that it just does feel like they're in a little bit of a funk offensively, and that the Warriors defense deserves credit for that. But I understand fans being a little concerned and maybe even unimpressed with the way that they have played so far in this series against a team that doesn't look like they have it. But I can tell you that the intelligence and the ferocity the Warriors are playing with is really kind of getting into the Wolves a little bit more. And maybe they figure that out as this series goes along. But I would not sort of get diminished in my optimism about the Wolves long term, just because it hasn't been the prettiest basketball so far in this series.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on all of that. And then ultimately, what happened the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game was what? In a game that was ugly, in a game that they did make a lot of maddening mistakes, they had a stretch of basketball in which they turned it from a loss to a victory, which is what we've kind of been clamoring to do. And they did that with a lot of good plays. And as you wrote today, many of them, Julius Randle was directly influential and directly participating. So I suggested earlier that this might be, that Julius might, this year, might well represent the perfect marriage of time and player. Around the league, the talk is that the contrast between the regular season whistle and postseason whistle has never been more dramatic. And I think we're seeing a player, if you buy that premise especially, who is taking full advantage of that by using all of his physical makeup, right, his physical skills to be the bully, to be a guy who actually is facing down Draymond Green and other players, that we're seeing the best of what Randle can offer from a physical standpoint, not to mention the playmaking, at a time where clearly in most games the referees are just letting them play.
Yeah, he's just been nothing short of remarkable, Dan, in these playoffs. And obviously there was a lot of question marks about him. He did not play well in his previous playoffs with the Knicks, both series. There's reasons for that if you talk to people about it, explanations for it. But in general, he just didn't get it done. He is getting it done right now. And when they first made the trade, I remember I came on with you very early on, the couple of days afterward. And what I kept hearing from Timberwolves leadership and decision makers is, look, we did make this for financial purposes. Absolutely. There was a very real component of that to get our salary cap in order so that we can build over the long term, second apron, yada, yada, yada. But there was a lot of pushback that it was only a financial deal. They believed that Randle's toughness, his bully ball capabilities, his just pure bucket getting in times of strife was going to help them this season as a basketball team in the immediate future, in the present. And that is proving to be the case here because everyone knows I am a Cat guy. He's my guy. I really think that he's a great player here for a long time. One thing that he would struggle with is when the physicality ramped up, when there was a lot of pushing and clutching and grabbing and swiping, he sped his game up. And it often would contribute to turnovers, to missed shots, or to kind of floating out to the perimeter. What Julius Randle does in these situations is he grabs the ball with both hands, he puts his shoulder into your chest, and he goes right to the basket, and he's either shooting it or he's collapsing the defense and finding guys for wide open looks outside. And he plays with both a violence, but also with a stabilizing calmness in those moments that you really can't put a price tag on for this group right now.
No, I think that's a very fair way to put it. 100% true. A number of people have texted wondering whether you get any sense that part of Edwards' difficulties, obviously notwithstanding the second half when I think he scored, 26, 28 points in the most recent game, is that the ankle is bothering him a little bit. It's not stopping him from playing, but it is having some impact on him. Do you have any sense of where he is physically right now?
You know, I don't think he's 100%, Dan, but I do think it's one of those things where at this stage of the season, how many players are. I don't think he is severely limited by that ankle or by anything else. I think he's banged up. He plays a physical game. He takes a lot of contact. He's going to the rim a lot, to his credit. And so his body is enduring some punishment, and the Warriors are physical and they make it hard on him. But I really haven't seen a noticeable drop off in explosion or in lift or anything like that. I mean, he threw down the major dunk over Looney in Game 3. Like, he looks physically all right. I think he's a little worn out. I do think he's getting a little tired, so I'm watching that. But from just, if there's anything holding him back, I don't think it's significant at all. I just think that he has to find a way to finish better at the rim and knock down some of these more open shots that he's getting, like he did, again, credit, in the second half. And remember, even in Game 1, he started out 0 for 10. He finished 9 for 12. So he's kind of been streaky in this thing, but he's done enough to make me believe that he's actually okay physically.
I must say, if we're looking for things to quibble on regarding the Wolves to this point, given notwithstanding the fact that they're in position to go up 3-1 and then would need only one more victory to return to the NBA's Final Four, I don't like the way DiVincenzo is playing right now. I tend to think, as you get closer to the end and you're presumably playing better teams, that they're going to need a better version of DiVincenzo than they're getting. What are you seeing and what are you hearing on him?
Yeah, it's been a real issue, and it's kind of one of those things where tonight, even especially, I'm watching. The Warriors. Pajemski's played terribly. Moody's played terribly. They have a couple of guys that maybe you think, hey, if they raise their level, if they knock down some shots, maybe this is more of a game, than it should be. But to me, the biggest area where the Wolves can say we are not ourselves is with DiVincenzo. He's been doing some things defensively earlier in the series to help out and rebound and play decent defensively, but I thought it wasn't just the shot making in Game 3, but Jimmy Butler was finding him in switches and taking him right to the basket and scoring. And DiVincenzo is supposed to be an answer to Mike Conley if he's too small. And DiVincenzo's bigger, he's stronger, he's tougher. He's supposed to put up more of a fight, and he hasn't been. The shots that he's getting, Dan, are really good looks that are not going down right now. And so I do think that's just kind of a little funk that he can snap out of. And when he does, it's going to raise the level of this Wolves team significantly. But right now he does not look comfortable shooting the ball and defending. And that's a problem. And, he's been dealing with this toe injury that kept him out earlier in the year. He's been playing through it. He hasn't offered any excuses, but I see it every day. After every game, he's icing it down. He's wrapping it heavily. I don't know if that's playing a role in his struggles, but there's no question that he is not the same player that he was for most of the second half of the season, and they need him to get back on track if they want to be a team that can not only win this series, but win the next series as well.
The artist, formerly known as AP Sports Guy, brought to you by RBC Wealth Management. Is there any nostalgic part of Jonny Athletic that misses Lottery Monday, which of course is today?
There is. I feel like, so as you know, Dan, I got LASIK surgery last summer. Yeah. And so I don't wear glasses anymore. And there is still, I got it in July, and there's still nights where I'm getting into bed and I reach to pull my glasses off my face and put them on the nightstand. I'm not wearing any glasses. And that's what I feel like right now.
Yeah.
Like with lottery, I feel like I should be calculating lottery odds.
Yes.
I should be asking the Wolves if they have any good luck charms that they're bringing with them to the drawing. Like I should be looking at who is the next savior that the Wolves might have a minute chance to jump up and get that is going to turn around their fortunes and get them into these playoffs. So I was telling someone last night, like just the simple thought, well, first of all, that we're in the second round for 2 years in a row covering this team, but also the possibility of back-to-back Western Conference finals, the possibility of an NBA finals appearance. This time of year, it's completely foreign to me still. I haven't gotten used to it.
Your favorite lottery coverage moment regarding the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Oh, man. Geez, I'd have to. Well, it's got to be this, right? It's got to be when Flip won the Karl Anthony Towns lottery. I was there when he came out of the room. They were in the locker room. They were watching it. And that was a very tough season, as you know, Dan. Yeah. And to Flip's credit, he took that coaching job and took all of those losses instead of making someone else do it. And they took it right on the chin, and it was a really ugly year, but Flip was so optimistic. They win the lottery to get the Karl Anthony Towns pick, and he comes out. I think he had just lost his father maybe at the time or something, and he was very emotional. He kind of broke down while he was talking about what it meant to him and to his family and everything. And, that's just, that's something that I'll just never forget, miss him to this day.
It's funny. Next time we have Sam Mitchell on, he reminds me that we should talk about that draft because he insists that there was a lot of momentum to pick Okafor until a couple of crucial moments. So I don't remember Sam ever telling us that on the air. So it is interesting. Now it seems obvious, right, that Towns is the guy. But maybe I think it was more divided at that point. As crazy as it sounds now.
It was, and I remember, Dan, because I even remember probably February of that season. It was obviously clear that the Wolves were going to be in the conversation for that top pick, and I would talk to Flip a little bit. I would talk to people around the organization. Hey, who are you looking at? And Flip really, really liked Okafor. He tells the story. I don't know that if he had gotten the Gopher job, that he would have gotten Tyus and Okafor to Minnesota. I don't know about that, but he absolutely was enamored with the low post presence, with how artful he was in that way, in that throwback way. But once it got to real due diligence time and Karl Anthony Towns' workout with the team and things like that, from what I understand, when Cat had that workout, he almost never missed, and it was just we can't pass this guy up. He is just way too talented. So they figured it out and they got to the right spot, which is not always what the Wolves have done in that position. But yes, there was absolutely, for much of the season, the belief that Okafor was the guy.
Yeah, as you well know, this team, every time it was in the lottery, it for the longest period never moved up based on the position they were supposed to get. Often moved as far down as you could, 3 spots down. And it was the Cat year they had the best chance and they won it, right? And then the Ant year they moved. That was the only time in the history of the franchise that they moved up. And moved up in that case from their pre-draft lottery position was 3, and they moved up to 1 to get a guy who's still coming in kind of handy, Anthony Edwards.
And that was your guy, Dan, who delivered it in another lottery moment, D'Lo. D'Lo was the one who they had him on the split screen with Steph Curry representing the Wolves. Yeah. And it came down to that last one, and I think it was Mark Tatum pulled the thing out, and it was the Wolves. And I remember D'Lo sitting there in his Wolves polo. It was remote because of COVID and all that, and he shook his fist and pounded it. So you thank your guy D'Lo for delivering Anthony Edwards to this franchise. So
if the Wolves win it all, you think he still maybe should get a ring or maybe a playoff share of some sort?
You know what was weird, Dan, is that after Game 3, they get the win. They're up 2-1. And for some reason, I don't know why, there was a bunch of mentions in the Twitter feed, like kind of like tangentially saying, hey, don't discount D'Lo for his culture setting presence when he was here and how important he was. And I asked one guy who had a reaction, like, where is this coming from? No one really seemed to know, but D'Lo is definitely in the conversation around here these days. And so, yeah, maybe he does. Maybe we need to revisit that and really send him some thank you cards and really re-examine it.
Related to the Wolves' success?
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes.
I missed that. I'll have to check that out. That's classic.
It made no sense to me, but there was like, it was more than a few fans that were putting this out there and like having the D'Lo conversation right now. And I don't know. His legacy lives on.
I'll leave you with this. 952 guy writes, Dan, I once went to a wedding in San Francisco in July. After the wedding, we did a long weekend in Napa. When we left San Francisco in the afternoon, it was 58. When we got to Napa, just across the bay, it was 106. So there you go. There it is, to your point.
There it is.
That's exactly it.
It's the yin and the yang of it. It's a beautiful thing out here.
Have you seen Guardsy yet? Guardsy's blowing in. You probably know that. He's blowing in for the game. He's the ultimate Wolves superfan.
He told me. I have not seen it. Whatever he needs to do to get out of the office.
Apparently so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you feeling all right? Is the chemistry okay there?
Does he know that the Wolves can't eliminate the Warriors tonight? He does know that, right? It's 3-1. I mean, essentially that would be an elimination, but technically they still have to win another one.
Yeah. It's not over yet.
No.
So, but I guess I understand a Wolves fan, being all the way into it, the thought of going up 3-1 on the road in the second round of the playoffs. This is not something that Wolves fans are used to. So, hey, go for it. If you got the means and he's got 9 jobs to pay for that stuff,
for sure.
We're happy for you.
For whatever it's worth, when I got the text, he said, "Can you fill in Monday and possibly Wednesday?" So here we go.
Is that right?
Is that right?
Okay,
yeah,
there he goes.
We'll see.
Wow, unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's we'll say goodbye to you. Have fun tonight. Thanks for the extended time as always, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, Johnny.
All right, sounds good, Dan. We'll see you.
John Krasinski, brought to you by RBC Wealth Management. A reaction to what Johnny had to say. Hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 646-86. We've got some Twin stuff to get to. We've got some calendar of calamity stuff to discuss as well. Top 5 at 5 yet to come.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
The word on the street then was he's too country for pop. But then once I got to country, it was he's too pop for country. So I kind of never really had a place to fit in, but that's exactly how and why I fit. I just embraced that. Like, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
A lot of show. Don't go.
Bonus Box is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. That's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. To enter keywords and to learn more, head to KFAN.com. Bonus Bucks is presented by BigDeck.com. And the keyword for the 4 o'clock hour is green. The keyword green, KFAN.com. Keyword green.
Minnesota sports calendar of calamity.
How well, Brett Blakemore, do you remember this nightmare? On this date in Minnesota sports history, just 3 years ago, 2022, your Minnesota Wild lose to the St. Louis Blues 4-2 in Game 6 and are eliminated in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That Wild team had set franchise records for both victories, 53, and points, 113. What do you remember about that series and about that disaster?
I'm trying to remember if that was the last year of Fiala or not, because I remember that was really the year where I thought, where they had Kaprizov and Fiala at the same time.
Right.
I truly thought the Wild could do it, and they had the offensive firepower to do it. And I can't remember if it was that series or the first time they played Vegas, where I really thought, like, this is possible. Like, we can do this. And I want to say it was either Binnington or Jake Allen just stood on their head. I think both of them have at various points against the Wild. Each one is just as heartbreaking as the last, but if it is the year that I'm thinking of where they had Fiala and Kaprizov at the same time, that one was especially heartbreaking.
Talbot was our goalie then, correct? That was Cam Talbot.
Checks out.
I think that's correct. Back in the day. Well, it's only 3 years ago.
Wow.
But did we? Was that another series where we said we played well enough to win, and just it was a couple plays here or there, or where we? I don't remember that much about each of the games in the series.
Yeah, so it was. That was the year I was thinking of with Fiala and Kaprizov. But yes, Cam Talbot in net. Still had Jordan Greenway. Remember him?
I do.
Let's see. Tyson Jost. Yeah, so there are some decent players. Dewar and Duhaime were still on the squad. But I just thought you have two legit, and Boldy, of course, you have two legit scoring lines, which is something I didn't think the Wild had at various points in the playoffs. That one really stung, especially being the Blues, who I didn't think were particularly good that year.
Yeah, and that's the rub on top of it. Well, go ahead.
Well, just Minnesota led that series. The fan remembers
2-1.
2-1.
Yeah, familiar.
And then loses Game 4 5-2 in St. Louis. Loses Games 5 in Minnesota 5-2, and then loses Game 6 to lose the series 5-1. So not a lot of defense, not a lot of goals.
Nightmarish is what it was.
Yeah.
It's definitely a calendar of calamity worthy. That is indeed for sure. Number of texters listening to Jonny, noting that one of them saying, I saw a video last week where Cat and D'Lo are talking about in a podcast, Cat being traded from Minnesota to the Knicks. Cat was talking about being surprised. D'Lo said he thinks that the Wolves regret trading him. That might be the source of D'Lo talk. Yeah, this sounds like what Jonny was alluding to seemed to be something different, more recent. But we talked about and mocked that particular exchange, not because at the time it sounded outlandish to think that the Wolves then were missing Cat, because it didn't sound that outlandish at the time. The trade was not looking quite as favorable then, but it was more that D'Lo also confided that he thought that what the Wolves really needed were two things, Cat and himself. That the two missing pieces were not just Cat, but D'Lo. And people think I'm kidding when I say this. I really believe D'Lo's biggest impediment as a talented guy in terms of reaching his potential as a pro is captured in that sound. It's his own delusion. If you believe as a player you're better than you really are, I think it affects the way you go about your business, the way you play. And so you don't play to fit in. You don't play to, I think, be a winning piece. Quite frankly, the way Randall is trying to fit in now, you think it's about you and you want to be the guy. And I think that has not served D'Lo well. And he gets confused because for a stretch, he can be the guy. For a 9-game stretch in the regular season, D'Lo can average 30. And he can look like the straw that stirs the drink, but he can't maintain it. He can't guard you. And he's not as smart as a basketball player as he thinks he is. So we did have some fun with that level of delusion, but I do think ultimately explains why I think he's been with like 8 different teams already. Maybe more, maybe a little less, I'm not sure. But I do think that's part of the whole deal for sure. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 64686. Let me get to a couple other texts, and I've got another. Well, maybe I'll save my my old man rant for the 5 o'clock hour of the of the show. Have heard far too long Wild are only one piece away, and then they get bounced round one. Most overhyped team in the state. I have no problem accepting that criticism. It's oversimplified. You could say, well, but they do look closer than they have before, but I don't care. And I don't think that texter needs to care. We part of what happens is if you cry wolf often enough about we're one piece away, we're close, because this is the second iteration of when all this young talent ascends that we have in the minor leagues and even the young players we have, and they all come together at the right time, nobody's going to want to play us. We've been through that before, and it led to nowhere. So I don't blame people for being skeptical. You have to. I said this on Enough Said, Fox 9 the other night. At some point, you can't just sort of try to ease and jimmy the playoff door, second round of the playoff door, open it that way. You got to bust it down. You have to obliterate it. You have to smash it. To me, that's sooner or later what this team's going to have to do. They're going to have to do it in a big, certain way that leaves no doubt about, well, one play here, one play there. You're going to have to obliterate somebody. And maybe it's going to be next year. Maybe a lot of things are going to come together. Maybe they're going to be able to make one big trade. Maybe they're going to get one piece in free agency. Maybe they're going to be healthier because let's be honest, if they're not, it's not going to matter. It really isn't. It's not going to make that much difference. But I understand a lot of why people sort of respond that particular way to the notion that, well, this is a series where all the games were close. We didn't get blown out of any of them. Blah, 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 blah. Where are we here? Oh, Austin from Apple Valley. Not sure if you saw it. It's not as big a story as the Hopkins kerfuffle, but this past weekend, a prep hoop event at Eden Prairie canceled in the middle of it due to a fight in the crowd. Police saying overcrowding and overcapacity also being an issue. I did see some news gathering about that. It looked like an inexcusable situation that should never have taken place. And I don't know how it was received, because the decision, and I don't know if this is a police decision in Eden Prairie, an Eden Prairie high school decision, but they chose, I believe the altercation took place on a Saturday, I think. Whenever it was, they canceled the rest of it because it was going to go into Sunday. And the reason ostensibly they gave was that there was a contract about numbers being in the gym and that those numbers were exceeded. Is that literally true? Was that an excuse because we do not want to have to consider the possibility that there might be more violence and it's just not worth it? I don't know. But I can't say I blame whoever made that call. I can't say I blame them. And it's too bad because I'm sure, obviously, most people were there to watch the basketball. They weren't there to get in any kind of difficulty. They weren't there to start anything. But it did look bad, and it looked like the kind of situation that had a chance to escalate and get worse. And it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. But I can't say I blame whoever the officials were that said we're done. We're done. We're not going to open up the possibility, especially if there were things in place regarding the numbers and those numbers were exceeded. If there's somebody who went and can give us more information or what they saw or what they'd heard, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 64686. In fact, I want to get to a few more texts here before. Are you prepared for the top five? You in pretty good shape, you think?
I'm prepared. We got a couple more breaks to get there, but yeah, I'm prepared.
Oh, that sounds like you're doing what I used to do when studying for tests. You're procrastinating, and then you're going to try to jam it all in together at the last minute. Is that what you're attempting to do?
I've got a rough idea of where we're going.
Guardsy in San Fran. Finchy has a plan. Listen tonight on the Fan. Wolves in 5.
Genius.
Ask Lil B if she's working on a canopy. Even I have become tired of that discussion, so you will not hear any more canopy jokes from me. In fact, does that mean it could never happen? No, I won't say that. Miracles can't happen. Lil B moves mountains sometimes. So if anybody could do it, I think she could, but I'm not going to I'm not going to worry about it any longer. At some point, you just got to have to move on and either be pleasantly surprised or just assume that dream is going to die.
Just think about how many times, if you sponsored the canopy, how many times you'd be mentioned on the station.
Very, very true, David.
I'm just saying.
The Kirill Fiala year where we lost in the playoffs was 100% on Bill Guerin. He made Coach start Fleury in every game until the last. Oh, is that true? You looked that up? Talbot was only in the last game? You know what? Now that he's jogged my memory, I think we had a discussion on this show without Guerin and then with Guerin about that very point.
Yep.
That I did not like that decision, as I recall it. And it was easy after the results to say we were vindicated in having that concern, but I think some of that was revealed by folks before the series had even begun. What else did I want to get to here? Well, now the system's a little bit slow, so I'll save it. I'll move back towards the top of the text line. Oh, by the way, we're trying to negotiate. I'm hoping we can get Rocco on the show. You know, we have good off-season conversations with Rocco, but rarely during the season. And I'm thinking, okay, if you play this smart, you'd think this would be a time he might be more willing to talk. I mean, right? Things are feeling pretty good. But let's do this. Let's get caught up first because we went long, obviously, with Jonny Athletic. We'll get another segment in, and that'll give Blakemore a little more time to cram for today's edition of
Appreciate
the Top 5.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
The word on the street then was he's too country for pop. But then once I got to country, it was he's too pop for country. So I kind of never really had a place to fit in, but that's exactly how and why I fit. I just embraced that. Like, yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Catch Game 4 tonight with our Ultra KFAN watch party at Heartbreakers in Chaska. Halvey, Zach Halverson, will be there, and he has your shot to win great prizes. You can play games, sample Michelob Ultra. Pre-party kicks off at 8 p.m. Get full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
One of his, I think, nicknames, Halvey Hoops, right? Pretty sure.
I've always called him that.
Massive hoops guy, is he not?
Absolutely.
That sounds like a pretty good...
much bigger than me.
Fun event tonight. You know, we don't have anything like, you know, in some cities, I don't believe, and there's somebody who can text and correct me if I'm wrong. You know, in some cities when the favorite basketball team plays road games, the home fans assemble in front of a, you know, great big screen in, you know, like often near the home arena. I think Toronto, isn't it called Jurassic Park? And there's a couple of others. I think the Knicks are doing that this year. Have we ever done, maybe this is the closest we're going to get to it, the Halvey event. Who's to say? Yeah. Have we ever done anything like that around our arena where we've got a spot that Wolves fans assemble so they can watch road games from that location?
As far as I'm concerned, well, first of all, you should go to our watch parties. That's number one.
That is actually a great idea.
But if that were not an option, I feel like they should open up Target Center or something. Like, just put the game on the Jumbotron for the people.
You could, but here's what I believe aesthetically, it looks better like outdoors in a park. Like the way there's something about that ambiance that's better than just a huge arena where you're not going to fill it, and that's going to look kind of empty, a little bit like going to a Twins game. And you have a spot that's so tight that it looks like you got 1 million people there when you may only have like 5,000 or 3,000, but it looks big because it's a relatively small area.
We need our own version of what they have in Circa, that pool in Vegas that has the giant screen. Something like that would be just elite.
Let me know if we find anything like that. It wouldn't be a bad idea. Guardsy heads to the Bay. Julius abusing Day. Finchy has him ready to play. Wolves in 5. Huh. Interesting. Dan, I was speaking of going on a rant. This is from Jim. I was at the Thursday Wolves game. Nice game. Randall was a stud, and the Wolves pushed back nicely when the Warriors made a run in the third. Now to the rant. It's a long time since I've been at an NBA game, but when did the public address people start playing warm-up music with F-bombs that are barely bleeped out? Beyond that, when did Wolves fans start believing they were all part of the beautiful people, with at least 20% of the seats being empty seats at tip-off? I had not noticed that in terms of the empty seats, and I can't speak to the music. I have absolutely no idea. The fact is, I mean, let's face it, we've reached a point, and you have to decide whether this bothers you or doesn't. The F-bomb is everywhere at sporting events now. You can hear it more easily in a basketball arena because it's obviously a more intimate setting. You can even hear it post-game pressers, at least when Anthony Edwards is involved, though I think he's maybe curbed that a little bit. Maybe he's gotten a little bit better there. But we've definitely, I think, headed in that direction for whatever reason. And I don't know. I think a lot of teams, they don't really know what to do about it. So it's almost like it's kind of grandfathered in to a certain extent. Buckets tried, Draymond cried, Warriors fried. Wolves in 5. There's a couple others, but those are pretty good. Keep them coming as we get deeper into this series. Okie City tied the Denver had the Nuggets had a great chance to go up. Also 3-1. Had a start of the fourth quarter. I think they increased the lead to 8. And then Okie City took over. I will tell you on Okie City, I'm in that group that says prove it to me. But their defensive performance through much of that game yesterday was really, really, really good. Now, we may get into this at Top 5 at 5. If not, we'll get into it after. There's some controversy surrounding the short turnaround time between games 3 and 4 in that series, as raised by Charles Barkley, among others, which we can, I think, might be worthy of discussion as well. So, wow, what is this supposed to mean? Who the hell wants to watch anything with Zach, let alone basketball? Howie's a great host. What are you smoking? 507 guy, that's uncalled for. Why would he go after Zach that way? Zach's the perfect host. Are you kidding me? It's outstanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I don't think necessarily basketball, but I mean, so what? When I think of him, but that doesn't make any difference. That's not all that important. So do we name that spot that Wolves fans can assemble outside, presumably downtown Minneapolis, when the Wolves are playing road games? The Wolves Den. We'll call it the Wolves Den. Or is that too obvious? It's a little obvious.
I like it. I mean, okay. Yeah, it's odd, but it
Welcome
fits.
to the Den. Yeah.
The upper third just says, live look at the Den.
Mm-hmm. That's what you got to get. You got to have that live look from them. That's what you got. It's got to have a pithy name exactly like that. All right, Top 5 will include?
It'll include both a look of our Twins and our Wolves, and the NFL is drip-feeding us information. We're all suckers for it.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
Yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.